start this kind of video with like, this is the kind of tea I'm drinking, it's the tea of the month, it's my new favorite sort of montage. I wanted to start this video off instead just by yapping a little bit about trying to find an Audible alternative. I have been trying for, you know, a couple of months, and at the end of July I actually decided to finally like quit Audible and start with LibroFM. I don't know if it is really solving the problem in publishing, but it is at least not contributing to the Jeff Bezos problem in publishing. And it's apparently employee owned, so social purpose corporation, where your purchase will benefit the indie bookstore that you have chosen. So I am benefiting a bookstore back home where I'm from named Otter Books. It's been working really well for me. I thought I should just like throw that out there because this is my August wrap up. If you're new here, hello, my name is Steph. I read books. Sometimes I talk about trying to write them. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and often the audiobooks that I am listening to are from smaller authors that maybe aren't available on audio through my library, or they are indie published authors. And I mean, you can search the Daniel Green video. I don't even know what the most recent update with that is. Yeah, I just feel marginally better about my money going to marginally better people and places. So if you know anything about Libro, including any like hot gossip, let me know in the comments. But so far it's been working really well and I really enjoy it this month. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books to talk to you about today, books and novellas. And I'm gonna start with one that I think has shown up a few times now on my channel because I was reading it slowly. I love it, and I also really love it. This is Dark Dance by Tanith. It's the first book in her, what is it, the Blood Opera sequence, and it is currently out of print. Tanith Lee was a British writer who won gobs and gobs of British awards in the, I think from like the 70s through to the 90s possibly. She has a huge backlist and like almost all of her books are out of print. I picked this up because the premise kind of intrigued me. So I have been calling her Raquella. I think it's Raquella. I'll let you decide for yourself, but I'm calling her Raquella because that sounds better to me. That's how it was in my head and that's how it's coming out of my mouth, okay? Thank you. She grew up without her father. Her mother seemed to really hate her father. She just knew that he was part of the Scarabee family. And her mother told her, like, always stay away from this family. Don't have anything to do with them. I hate them and I kind of hate you too. Well, her mother has died. And shortly after her death, Raquella is contacted by the lawyer for her father's family saying that she needs to come to their big gloomy old house, mansion place, that is on the seaside, like a 5-hour walk away from any other kind of town. There's no roads that service it clearly. She needs to come there for her inheritance. It has major Anne Rice Mayfair Witches vibes. I actually looked up to see which one was written first. This was written really shortly after the Mayfair Witches, and you cannot convince me that she didn't read the Mayfair Witches, but this does kind of diverge. It's not like a rewrite of the Mayfair Witches. She does have some very different ideas. Raquella is a very passive character in the first couple of chapters, and when she kind of arrives at Scarabee House, it is eerie and weird, and all of the windows are stained glass windows, so there's no direct sunlight because the family says that, you know, sunlight really bothers them, and they all kind of look the same. They're kind of pale with fair hair and dark eyes, and they're all very old except for her father, Adamus. While she's there, she discovers exactly what the Scarabee want from her, and the whole history of that family kind of unfurls. I said that it's kind of like got vampires in it. They are not like vampires of any kind that I have ever read before. It's even kind of up for questioning whether or not they're even vampires. That word is only on the page, I think, like once, where someone is like, vampire? Is that like what is going on here? It was really eerie, kind of disturbing, but just so creative. Like, Tanith Lee's writing is just lush and hypnotic, and you enter these sort of dreamlike sequences where she's very much awake, but everything feels kind of unreal and like dialed up to 10, because the pacing of like the chapters will kind of change and you're really like experiencing this right alongside Raquela, and I loved that so much. So if you can get your hands on it, I definitely recommend reading Dark Dance. I loved this so much. I can't stop thinking about it. I just talked about in my last video that I ordered the sequels. Yes, the next one I'm going to be reading is Personal Darkness. I love this cover. I think it's like, what the hell is going on? Hide my face behind the book. What the hell is going on here? Very excited. And I also have the Darkness Eye, which is the third. So that is on the agenda for the upcoming months. I just want to also note before concluding about this book is that I know that Gothic is kind of like going through a bit of a moment right now, and I want to just like let everybody know, if you read One Dark Window and you're like, oh, maybe I like this thing called Gothic, this is thematically Gothic as well as not just atmosphere and vibes in the house. It is full of trauma and drama, and it's really unhinged, and there are parts that are kind of dark. So if you're a sensitive reader, I think that's just kind of a good thing to be aware of, because, you know, Gothic stuff does tend to go into those more difficult topics and things that are really hard to deal with. That being said, I do think that these topics and themes and stuff really well, because I tend to sort of feel that there should be no topics that are off limits for reading and for writing. It just has to be handled in a sensitive and really like wise way. And I think she did that. So after that, I read Slaughterhouse-Five. So I read this on my phone, but I picked this up because I heard Dad Like Book, who has a great channel where he's rereading mostly vintage sci-fi books. I heard him mention that this book is an anti-war book, and I was homeschooled. I didn't really read a lot of the sort of prescribed reading that I think a lot of people tend to get, so I was off doing my own thing. I was reading weird stuff, not Slaughterhouse-Five. This book is following the story of Billy Pilgrim, and he is recounting it to you as he describes his experience as an American soldier during World War II, where he is a chaplain, or maybe chaplain's assistant, gets taken captive and held prisoner in the city of Dresden in Germany. And while I was reading this, I actually learned a little bit about the Dresden bombing, because I didn't know a whole lot about the terror bombings that were done against Germany by the US at that time, because the Dresden bombing was super controversial because they killed a ton of people, including a lot of civilians. Women, children, and their own prisoners of war, with more fatalities than, I want to say it's Hiroshima, but I could be getting that wrong. It might have been, it was one of like the big famous bombs. Anyway, so many people died, and he was sort of like too deep in the ground to be able to actually experience it, and then came out, and, you know, the smell, the sights, everything just horrific. And so a lot of this book is quite grim because he's showing you, he's telling you about the realities of war. But at the same time, it's kind of funny because his voice, you can kind of hear that the character, maybe even the author, is using humor to sort of deal with it, and has this like very offhanded, dry way of speaking. The story also jumps around a lot, back and forth, all over the place, including to these segments where he becomes convinced that he was abducted by aliens. And this is where it's like no longer semi-autobiographical. It is almost adding another filter on reality to make it possible to kind of deal with it. I thought it was just really interesting. Every time something about death would come up, the author would be just like, so it goes. We follow him as well when he's sort of like a bit older after the war, and I was really surprised by how often Vietnam came up. So it goes. Yeah, it was a really good book. I feel like I didn't maybe do the best job of describing it. Dad Likes Books does a great job talking about it, so I will link that video somewhere down below, because yeah, I'm glad that I gave this a try. I really enjoyed this author, and I think I forgot to also mention that the alternative title to this book is The Children's Crusade. So that is Slaughterhouse-Five, The Children's Crusade, a duty dance with death. Excellent. Next, we're gonna make a really hard pivot to talk about The Book of Love by Kelly Link. This is kind of a magical realism fantasy type of book, and I have very few notes, and I had very few memories of like the plot, because there's so much going on about this, because we follow multiple different characters. I want to say 4 or 5, and each one has a fully fleshed out arc. This is a really long book, and it will feel like vibes, and it's quite slow, but if you are really interested in kind of wacky magic, interesting stuff that is exploring like deep character work, This is a really good one. The book starts off with 4 people who have recently graduated high school, like very recently. They appear in their high school music teacher's music room, I suppose. They have this awareness that they have been brought back from the dead. They don't know where they have been for the last year. The memories of it is like super vague, and they have to figure out what happened. And their high school music teacher is like, you have to do some magic, because they're also being followed and like sort of haunted by this supernatural figure that was back in like the Deadlands, basically that in-between liminal space that they were trapped in. He's kind of followed them back, and he wants to like bring them back. Everybody in their lives' memories have been kind of reset, so they just think that they were in Ireland for a year. It was a great like study abroad time. They're just here for the Christmas holidays, and time is ticking while they figure out what the hell happened, how to do magic, what is even like going on in this great cosmology of things. I think this would really appeal to people who like Middle Game by Shauna Maguire, and also maybe some of the whimsicalness and like almost playfulness of Laini Taylor's work. But yeah, just know that there's like a lot of vibes going on, a lot of character work. It's a little slow. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, if you like Holly Black as well, you can check it out. Let's see what I can remember about the characters. So there's Laura and Daniel. They are friends, and they were in a band together. And so they were doing a performance on the night that they died, and they don't know what happened that even caused them to die, and that's part of the mystery they have to figure out. Laura has a twin sister named something else who has like memories of grieving her sister that kind of keep surfacing, and they have a really complicated sibling relationship. And then we have Daniel, who is honestly like just like the nice, solid, who was also romantically involved with Laura's sister, whose name I'm blanking on. And then we have Mo, who is the grandson of a really wealthy Black romance author, and he lives up on this hill with his grandmother, who like kind of away from everybody else. And then we have a 4th character named Benji, who we don't know who they are. He came back with them from this kind of in-between liminal place. We don't know how long he was there. He's just like a big question mark. And so we also kind of see who he is, what he's doing, how is he connected to the music teacher and these kids and the creature that is like trying to follow them. It was a really interesting book. It was a good time. So yeah, that is The Book of Love. I also really like Kelly Link's short stories, because I think this is her first full-length novel, and it is, as I have said like 10 times, quite long. After that was my Libro purchase, A Sweet Sting of Salt. This has been on my radar since it came out last year, because it is by a Canadian author who might be from New Brunswick or somewhere in maritime Canada. It's a queer reimagining of The Sulky Wife. So we are following Jean, who is the only midwife in town. She lives alone. People don't like her that much because they feel like she might be a bit of a gentleman jack. She has a history with some of the ladies in the town. She has a couple like really close, strong friendships, but she's otherwise kind of isolated. That is until a woman who is like the new bride of her closest neighbor, who's some like dude who's like honestly not very nice, shows up in the middle of the night in her property area. And this woman is super pregnant. She is like going to pop. And Jean realizes she must be coming to her house to, get midwife help to get this thing out of her. It's a real way to describe birth. Miri, I think I'm mispronouncing this, has the baby, but she doesn't speak any English. She's sort of like strange. She has a very unusual way of connecting with people. She's been super isolated as well, kind of like Jean. So Jean is like, you have no skills to take care of your baby. Even though her like husband comes to collect her in the morning, Jean is like, you gotta stay here for a little longer and learn how to take care of your baby and learn how to take care of yourself, because you're still healing. And so Mirren stays with them for a couple weeks. And these two women become really close and like really good friends. And the longer that Mirren is there, the more that Jean begins to realize that something might not be right between her and her husband. And this is really hard for her to let go of, because she is starting to develop feelings for this woman. I should have also mentioned this is a historical kind of magical realism type of novel. I think it is set in the early 1800s. It opens with such a cool scene about a ghost ship burning in the bay. I was like hooked from the minute that it started, and it was really like fast read as well because it was fairly modern, but it was still evocative of the time that it was set in, which my favorite kind of approach to that. So yeah, I loved A Sweet Sting of Salt. This was definitely I had a great reading month actually. The more I think about it, like, oh, this is another great book that I really, really enjoyed this month. So Sweet Sting of Salt, a retelling of the Selkie wife. Wonderful. And it was really cool to read a retelling like that set in Canada. After that, I read a book which has been on my TBR for a really long time. It's called Hell Followed With Us. This is a horror, a lot of body horror. It's kind of gross. And in it, we're following Benji, who lives in post-apocalyptic America. Benji grew up in this crazy evangelical cult which has unleashed a virus across the whole world as part of their, wild, crazy beliefs. And this virus is basically a zombie virus. It causes your body to kind of fall apart. Your spine might come out of your back and turn into something else. You could develop teeth in the side of your cheek. It's gross, okay? And the really sad thing is that Benji has been experimented on in their efforts to create a seraph, which is like a super angel monster thing. But he is able to escape with the help of his father and manages to kind of join up with this group of LGBTQ plus teens and try and survive, try and get free of this culty group and create a new future for himself, because the cult is constantly trying to come and get them and sabotage him at every single step. And the thing is that Benji is also changing. Benji has been exposed to this virus. Benji is not going to be the same person in more than one way. This is such a good book because the main character is trans and it deals a lot with trans issues. And I think this was the main book, or the first book that I have ever read with the trans main character. And I really loved it. This did not read like a debut novel at all. No book is perfect, but this was really, I really enjoyed this. And I usually kind of struggle a bit with body horror when it gets to some this point. But how the author was using it was so clever and so interesting. I loved this book. It was so good. And the author's note, I wrote in my notes that the author's note was really thoughtful and great. I don't remember exactly what it was anymore. And I don't have the physical copy with me. So, that was really nice apparently. So yeah, that was Hell Followed With Us. I cannot wait to read more of this. It really made me think about trans issues in different ways. I hope I was always quite open-minded. But yeah, this really made me think more critically, and I really appreciate that. So Hell Followed With Us. Okay, after that I read a horror novella. It was sold to me by the internet as being a horror romance, but I don't really feel like it was a romance. I feel like this was very much a horror with kind of romantic elements in it, but it was a very creepy novella that had me really concerned for our main character because she wakes up from cryo, one of those deep space things where you sleep for a really long time, you wake up and you look exactly the same. Sorry, I'm not a huge sci-fi reader. She wakes up and all of her crew that she came out into this deep space with for research purposes are dead. She's the only one that survived. She's trying to figure out what is going on, and then she is contacted by this mysterious alien spaceship, and she sends the welcome package, and this one lone inhabitant on this spaceship is able to learn everything in a span of seconds or minutes just from that welcome packet. He's friendly. He presents himself in a form that she thinks would be not threatening, and that is a 19th century gentleman named Dorian Gray. But yeah, things are not as they seem. I was really stressed about this book. That is Thrum. Very creepy. So then I also wrapped up the month with The Missing of Claire de Lune, which is book 2 in the Mirror Visitor series. This was a buddy read with Kat over at Curious Cat. I really enjoyed this. So this series is very whimsical and a little bit difficult to explain. We're following a woman named Ophelia, and she lives on an ark, which is kind of like a floating community. And each community sort of has almost like a clan or a tribe that tends to sort of dominate. They have family spirits who are magical and sort of worship them. And Ophelia is an animist. That means that she usually wears gloves or something, because when she touches like an object, she'll have a, you know, flash of knowledge about who last touched this object, what were their like moods, what were they doing, what does this thing mean to them. Which means she would be really good in a museum, which is the sort of setting you first meet her in. But she has been betrothed to somebody living on a different arc, which is named Thorn. He is very opaque. Is that the right word for, you know, he's very opaque. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. He is very focused on his job. He's very not a great fiance. So she goes and moves over to his arc with her aunt, who's sort of there to chaperone. And it's, book one is very much like a Bridgerton thing, where she's getting sucked into all of the drama with all of the families, and because there's a lot of political tensions that are going on, and she's trying to navigate all of that while there are threats to her life. And the big thing is that the family spirit, Thorn's arc, wants her to use her power, or wants her husband to use her power, because when they get married, they like join powers, to read this mysterious book. We don't know what's in it, but what kind of like adds to the mystery is that there are these fragments that come in between each book where somebody somewhere is writing about someone named God, and it's all tying into like the history and the politics and the mysteries around this like world, this universe, the arcs. Yeah, book two, like I can't really say anything about the plot because it would really spoil book one for you, but it's a pretty cool world. Definitely would recommend to somebody who enjoys like Bridgerton vibes. Studio Ghibli, Diana Wynne Jones, all of that stuff. I get big, the Diana Wynne Jones book that is really popular on BookTube that I cannot recall. Big vibes for that. So I'm really excited to read book three. Don't know when I'm going to be able to get to that, hopefully in the next month or two. We'll see. Kind of brings me to the very end of this video. So if you made it to this point in the video, thank you for watching. Please tell me about your favorite recent read, or if you have read any Tanith Lee. I would love to get more suggestions for her, because her backlist is enormous and it's a little bit overwhelming, but everything I have picked up has been just hit after hit. So I hope you're having a lovely day wherever and whenever you are. Bye!